It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 11 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge with myself and the Ronan Groome. Well, Mr. Groome, I took the cheap pieces off for this episode. Can't wait to get stuck into it. We have 6 performances to rate. You were at Punchestown, of course, for the Moscow Flyer on Sunday. Good day?
Good day. Very cold. Some nice performances, especially Impervious, which we're going to chat about. Very impressed with her and Perry Pa. Did it smartly as well, and a couple of eye catchers as well that I think will be interesting going forward. So yeah, it was a very good day, and good to see Davey back with a winner as well.
Absolutely. Well, we do, of course, just for anyone who is new around here, we of course, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video, always helps us out. First section of the show is star ratings. We look at the significant performances, we give them a rating, and next section of the show, track or horse. Then we'll be answering your questions, 2 big questions. In fact, I think we have 3 questions this week, Mr. Groome, we're addressing, and we're putting a portfolio under the spotlight. Of course, if you haven't updated your portfolio, now's the time to do so. Get your week 11 selection in for this week, but if you haven't updated your portfolio, of course, we're on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Less than, on this series, Mr. Groome, we have less than 10 episodes left, and of course, I suppose with a view to that prize, of course, on the eve of Cheltenham, everyone must have their portfolio updated on a weekly basis. So enough for the housekeeping, Mr. Groome. Next section of the show, that is the first section, and it is the portfolio. No, it's not the portfolio spotlight. It is, of course, the star ratings.
Download the Boyle Sports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
I think, Mr. Groome, last week we gave Tell Me Something Girl a 3.5 star. Raised a couple of eyebrows. I think El Chene said that he jumped better after 12 points of looking at the star ratings this week, I've taken the top 3. I've been more generous than you have. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up, shall we? Probably a good place to start is Impervious. Would you agree? You were obviously at Punchestown for the Moscow Flyer on Sunday. I thought he was very good. I thought you've been a bit harsh here, Mr. Groome.
Yeah, he was good. He jumped well. Bar the last, he jumped pretty quick. You could see him making ground at each one of his hurdles. He was jumping into the lead a lot of times from the Elliott horse, the mare. She could be anything. And he took care of her pretty smartly. And then Noel Mead's mare came in and tried to go with him and couldn't go with him. And she's decent enough mare. She does a lot of her winning around Punchestown. She ran well. Yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I just marked him down because the form standard I don't think was that high, but he couldn't really have done any more than he did there. I think maybe people were looking at his race that Nace, thinking he might bolt up again, but he probably couldn't do anything more. So maybe I was a bit harsh. Maybe I could have gone 3.5, but yeah, I thought he was good. What trip he goes now, he's just not a betting proposition for me at the moment, given he's won over 2-3. And then he's winning over 2 miles there, 2-1. And that's a race. Willie's, his last 5 winners, he's ran in the Supreme after it.
Where do you see him going?
Yeah, well, that's it. I just don't know. Like, how would you know Willie? Like, fast out big. I still don't think, like, what he does at Leopardstown, we'll have to see. But, like, it still wouldn't surprise me if he went up a trip for the Ballymore. And, like, Willie's the type of person now, like, you ask him, he just won't, not there's no point because he's just not even thinking about it. He doesn't think about it till he needs to think about it, and when the picture becomes clear, when all the runners have ran and when the entries have to be made, so he's just not a betting proposition. I wouldn't want to back him for the Ballymore or the Supreme because he mightn't even run. Like, you're taking a 50-50 nearly where he's going to run. So he's good, he's fine, but just not an Ante-Post horse for me.
Well, he's still in Barbados, isn't he? He hasn't even started to think
about it. Yeah, he's still on the beach, Willie. So
I was hoping for a little bit more fireworks from Mr. Jerry Hannon looking ahead. But just on the performance, I thought one thing that I did note is his jumping. Jeez, this horse will be some horse over the fence next year. Anyone who wants 2024 dockets, maybe Arkle. the Munir's like, of course, the 2 Mile Chasers. And God, I thought he jumped very well. And do you know what I was very surprised at, Ronan, was how they lined them up on the outside. Usually on these fancy one, Paul Townend right up the inside. Jordan Gainford seemed to steal his eye a little bit, did he? And kind of, I thought she made it a fair test out in front. And I'd be saying Ballymore personally this season for Impervious. I've come to the conclusion that Facile Vega, there was some comments last week, I think he probably just goes to the Supreme. Now, I've kind of flip-flopped on it, Mr. Groome, but I'd be saying Impervious up in trip, he's probably going to be a better horse over hurdles and then maybe stepping back to the minimum next season over fences. I don't know.
Yeah, well, just on that quickly, I was talking to getting ready for our Irish Field Cheltenham magazine today, and I was talking to one of the owners of Facile Vega, Ger O'Brien, and he obviously wasn't ruling out the Ballymore, but obviously leaves it up to Willie, and was just making the point that, it's up to Willie what he does, and they obviously go with what he does, like a lot of owners in the yard. I think Willie has the final say, obviously, so like he wasn't ruling it out yet, so you just don't know till they go and run. But it wouldn't, like, yeah, you're right, he probably will go for the Supreme, but it wouldn't surprise me if Willie did do a bit of bingo towards the closer to Cheltenham and start talking about the Ballymore as well.
So. That's when the fun starts. Right, second, Blood Destiny up at Fairyhouse.
Yeah.
Wasn't much competitive in behind them anyway.
No, that race is often used for Martin Pipe, or what you call it, Boodle's horses. And I think maybe a few of them had their eye on that now. That's... I don't think that's splitting the atom to say that, or earth-shattering to make that call. But a few of them might have been, looking at their potential handicap marks for that. But Blood Destiny did it fine. He won easily. He beat the horses that Lossiemouth beat at Leopardstown as easy as she did. Jumped, a bit sketchy, not as fluent, possibly as Lossiemouth. But if you were drawing a form line comparison, he did it. He would look as impressive. He was beating the same horse she was beaten by the same distance, if not further. So I think he definitely comes into the reckoning for the Triumph for sure. He's a 92 shot with BOYLESPORTS for that clear second favourite, and
worthy second favourite. Worthy second favourite. And
very much so. Yeah.
Just one thing to note on Blood Destiny, Ronan, is obviously on the new course, it's that little bit more of a stamina test. I know it has been brought up that, Lossiemouth, they didn't go mad pace at Fairyhouse. It'd be interesting to see how she gets on now at the DRF, but I
wouldn't touch Lossiemouth personally at her price now. I just think that's...
And her price is gone. I mean, she's 5-4. I mean, it's very skinny, yeah, absolutely. But just on the whole, Blood Destiny, I think this horse is a real improver. I think he's absolutely worthy second favourite. And believe it or not, I was actually looking at him last week with the idea of maybe playing 2 in the Triumph Hurdle, because I think this fella, given his national hunt pedigree, I think at the new course, he's going to improve second half of the season. I think he's still quite raw. Liked what he done. Obviously, he's beaten Common Practice by 18 lengths. He hasn't really had a test here and hasn't had a test yet, but he's a really likeable sort. And I'm sporting the old Blood Destiny colours here, Mr. Groome, but I thought it was smart. I don't think you could give him any more probably than a 3.5 is what you've called it here. So I think that's fairly spot on. Great awning.
Yeah, like we previewed this race on our preview show on Thursday, and it came down to the 3 that we were kind of concentrating on there. Grey Dawning was the horse. Like he was a bit obviously the last day. He had loads of scope to improve, and he, in fairness to him, did well to win here. He showed a really good attitude to get between runners at last. They finished in slow motion. It was Ginny's Destiny, the course and distance mare preview, that was second, and Knowsley Road, who I thought was impressive prior to that, Chepstow finished third, and they came 20 lengths clear of everything else. It was a real slow motion finish, and Grey Dawning looked like a real stayer in the heavy ground. So I'd say, if anything, it's Albert Bartlett for him. I'm maybe a bit harsh in form. I just thought the way they finished a bit slowly, but they did do a decent time as well. So maybe I'm a bit harsh with the 3 stars there. But it's 16-1 for the Albert Bartlett, 25s with BOYLESPORTS for the Ballymore as well. I would say Albert Bartlett would look the more likely for him, just the way that race panned out.
Yeah. He's very, very much unfurnished. Just to mention, obviously he's won a handicap at Kempton on his penultimate start. just interesting to see. I haven't seen what mark he gets. It's usually out, isn't it, tomorrow as we're speaking. He was rated 129 going into it. Could they potentially look down the handicap avenue? I mean, he's had 4 runs over hurdles. That could be an option for him. I wouldn't say it's nailed on that he's going to go and take his place in graded novice company. But then again, that's just a thought. He is priced up.
Martin Pipe. Yeah, you're right, Jim.
So just hold fire if you're planning on getting involved in grade on. It'd be interesting to see what mark he does get. But yeah, no more than a 3. I think you're spot on. Very much unfurnished. There's probably a lot more to come from him. I'll start, I suppose, at the bottom here and with Westport Cove. I absolutely love the way this horse done this. I know it's a bumper run and you were probably switched off. You're probably switched off as I'm talking about this here now. They didn't go a complete crawl now. There was pace in the race early. But Westport Cove, a bit of a mental case at the start. Completely and utterly ran away with Patrick Mullins. He had to let him go to the front. A big, lovely galloping sort. Obviously went off 4 to 5. It's easy to see. He was obviously quite well regarded to send him off at that price. I love the way when he got to the front, he settled and he galloped. He's a massive, big stride. And I'm going to say this straight. Obviously, it was deep ground at Fairyhill. What has he beaten is the question. He bet Faulty, who's probably stepped forward from his first couple of runs. No lead, as I mentioned on the Thursday podcast, when we spoke to Noel earlier in the season, he regards Faulty as quite a decent animal. For this horse to pull like he did early in the race, albeit he settled when he got to the front, it was hands and heels to the line, just galloped away from him. I just love the way he done it on testing ground, this Westport Cove. And of all the bumper horses I've seen, certainly in Ireland this season, he'd be absolutely top of the pile. And I've given him a 4-star. And obviously, he's had 1 start in a bumper, champion bumper. I don't know. I haven't seen anything in Ireland that's impressed me as much as this horse did.
Not that thing that won at Christmas, Tom Mullins' horse, Facile Mode.
Yeah, obviously there was probably a higher quality race. I love the way he done so much wrong early in the race. He looks so raw. He's a big galloping sort. Maybe champion bumper is a big ask for him, but Westport Cove, I just loved what he done. I couldn't give him any more than a 4 because it wasn't a complete performance, but I thought he was full value for the win, and I think this horse is a very, very talented individual. So I give him a 4-star. Pick Dory, I've been sort of picking holes at this horse in the past. He was foot perfect, bar the 4th last. I don't know, did you see the performance live, Ronan, or watch it? But
yeah.
Obviously he's quoted 14-1 now for the Rhino with BOYLESPORTS. That's probably, if he is going to Cheltenham, I think this horse has grown up a lot. He's obviously unbeaten so far this season. He had a wind up in the summer. He's looking more the finished article. He did shift slightly to his left with his jumping, albeit he was foot perfect, as I said, apart from the 4th last. Probably going left-handed is going to suit him more. He's not going to Cheltenham. Look, he could rock up there at a big sort of a price. And I don't know, is this a topic, but Nichols could have a very good Cheltenham this season. That's what people are saying, Nichols, is not a, obviously Aintree has been his target for plenty of horses, his better horses in the last couple of seasons. But the more you look at the races, Paul Nichols has a good team going to Cheltenham this season.
I'd have thought this horse would be more of an Aintree horse now myself.
Okay, yeah, possibly.
If you look at his form, he's a lot of flat tracks like Kempton. He won at Kempton easily last season. I called him, I think, flat track bully before, which is probably a bit harsh, but yeah, I'd be mad keen to take him on at a short price if he was on there.
And he get his own way in front. Like, you can see why you say it. He dominated from the front. Nothing really took him on in the contest. The ones who I suppose were close to him early in the contest, have dropped away. Clondalk Castle picks up the pieces in second. I mean, he's a 154 rated horse and no more than that. Pick Dory's going to have to step up again, but I just think he is improving. And, at 14-1, Balaho doesn't turn up in the Ryanair. I know we're saying that a lot on the podcast, but if he doesn't turn up in the Ryanair, is this horse possibly being underestimated should they choose to come here?
Possibly, yeah. I wouldn't be for me.
Not convinced. No. I'm not putting him up as a tip or anything like that, but I just think he certainly is improving, and I think you'd have to consider him should he line up there on the day.
Fair.
Ante-Post punt, I'm not so sure. Impervious, right. I think we both agree on this. I was very close to giving this horse a 5-star performance. I've thrown a lot more 5 stars around this season than you have, but I thought this was a top quality performance. She's given weight, obviously, to Journey with Me. what I loved about it was everything went right for Journey with Me. And she has arrived there on his girth and she's out-battled him, giving him weight. She's improving. She's going to take some whacking in the mare's chase. I know I've said that about Allegory Devassi and they've put up Scarlet and Dove, but she's a fair competitor now.
She can go Turners.
Yeah. Will one of the mares go Turners? Will Allegory Devassi go Turners?
If you take this race as a piece of evidence, right? Like if she met Journey with Me in the Turners, she'd be getting £7 off him. She'd get an £8 swing. She's carrying a penalty for a Grade 2 win here. So she's beaten Journey with Me basically off levels. She's given him £1. She gets like if you think Journey with Me is a Grade 1 animal and he was that kind of standard over hurdles last season and would would go well in the Turners. He was step forward again here as well. I thought he picked up from his win at Naas. And they've come well clear.
He's jumped very well. Heavy ground is his ideal conditions.
As you say, he jumped well in front. He looked like he was going to win. They've come 22 lengths clear of Manila Crooner. Like it's really, really good form. She would have if they came out tomorrow, Colin Murphy said they'd talk to JP and Frank and all that and go, we're gonna have a crack at the Turners. She'd be a single figure price for sure. She'd be in and around second favourite, third favourite in my book.
Here, listen, it's okay. It's one thing playing Willie Mullins bingo, but when you start playing JP McManus bingo, you know you have a problem, Mr. Groome, especially Ante-Post. But do you know what I loved? Do you know what I loved about her though? I mean, if you look at it was gas, wasn't it? Brian Hayes and Rachel Blackmore, and that was very romantic up the running. But if you look at Rachel's all out on the inside. You know, Brian doesn't have to get too serious.
She's one snug.
She's absolutely pinged the last. And she's out, Allegory Devassi hasn't been in a real battle. Impervious now has, and she's come out. And the scary thing is she's going to improve. She's really stuck her neck out. She's going to improve. And I think she's some rival now. I'm very nervous on my Scarlet and Dove docket.
You look at her form, like if you could even argue, like she's not a betting proposition in the mares. I just wouldn't be going near that sort of price, but she should be favourite, right? Like last I checked last night, she was still second favourite to Allegory Devassi. Like her form is hugely superior to what she's achieved over hurdles or over fences. Impervious,
But it's if you're looking at the mare's chase now, 6-4 Allegory Devassi. Impervious, she's in there at 7-4, and Scarlet and Dove 6-1. And outside of that, I mean, you'd still have Ellie May. Is she down to run this weekend? I mean, so connections have Ellie May, who's won the race in the past. It's an interesting point you raise. It is bingo, though, isn't it? It's JP McManus bingo.
Is Ellie May down to run this weekend? Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but I know isn't.
Just let me check that quick because I wouldn't have been surprised if she was done completely. She got an entry for the mares. Yeah, so maybe she's still around. I thought they'd be half tempted to just call it quits with her. She's 9-year-old after she ran, but yeah, if she came back into it, then that might free up a slot for Impervious to go elsewhere. But she'd have to run again. You'd say you would have thought to make an account of herself for the mares. So we'll see.
I'm kind of talking myself into upgrading that to a 5-star performance. If you were grading her, Ronan, what would you have given her?
Yeah, definitely 4 stars, possibly 4.5. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd agree. I'm very impressed.
You haven't given any horse a 5-star on this in 11 weeks into this challenge. So
a much more cynical person, Basil. Unlike you're very easy to please yourself.
Well, when Ronan Groome puts up, just to the listeners and the viewers, when he puts up a 5-star, take note.
Take note to go the other direction, probably.
Right, that's it for this section of the show. Enjoyed that, Ronan. That's on to the tracker horse.
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
Right, without going into massive detail this week, I have 4 chalked down, Mr. Groome. But once again, I'll give you the honours. How many have you to throw into the mix?
I've only got 1. I feel like I should have another now, seeing as you have 4. But no, I'll put up 2 then, because I was at Punchestown yesterday. I was keeping a keen eye on the race and talking to people after the race. So first one I'll put up is a tactical move. Who won the first division of the maiden hurdle. Like, he was coming off the track over 1,000 days, this horse. So he's clearly had his problems, right? But he was real keen earlier on, jumped to his left the whole time, and still had plenty enough to see off, a decentish or big field maiden hurdle. Like, I don't know what was in behind him. It was 66 to 1 shot was second, but Let's Go Champ, who was bought for a lot of money back in the day and had been off the track for a similarly long time, was third. Look, I was speaking to, as the other journalists were speaking to David Casey after the race, and he was completely, well, not gobsmacked, but he was surprised that the horse was able to keep going. He said he was pretty sure he'd get tired late on, and he said it must be a good horse to do what he did, to pull like he did earlier on, jump out to his left and still win comfortably like he did. That he must be pretty useful. Like, he's limited now, as in he's missed a lot of time where they'll go with him. He's obviously a novice hurdler, but like, get a bit more experience to him. He could be a player at the Punchestown Festival, maybe come back for the Grade 1 there if he progressed. Probably not your usual profile as such an old novice hurdler, but I thought he did it well and would definitely be worth looking at. For I could see him going to Fairyhouse maybe for the Grade 2 there on Easter weekend. Something like that. Maybe he won't go to Cheltenham. They have to run, obviously, as you know, we're coming on to that question, you have to run 4 times to get a handicap marker or be eligible for the handicaps at Cheltenham. So that might just rule that out for him. But I thought he was useful. The other one at a much lower level, if anyone watched the last, and I'm surprised if you probably didn't see the last race at Punchestown, because Jerry, our friend, was quite iconic again in his shout in the last furlong. He said, "There's no time for sneezing here," as Solomon Lane and Made in the Woods.
I think we need to get Jerry on this Monday show. But go on.
No time for sneezing. Anyway, Made in the Woods. I think he lost Robbie Gagan was riding him. Lost his irons earlier on in the race. Took him a while to get organised. He got passed by the Solomon Lane, who actually has some nice form if you go back through his book. But he battled really hard. It was only his second run proper over fences, I believe, because I think he unseated earlier on his first start at Limerick. And he ran a big race here. At a low level now, I'm not saying this is anything going to be going to any of the big festivals or anything like that, but he definitely can win a race. That's Made in the Woods, so keep an eye on him.
Right. Well, you were going Punchestown for your trackers. I am going to mention one at Fairyhouse on Saturday, and for me I thought we saw some real smart performances at Fairyhouse. You mentioned Blood Destiny. We spoke about West Port Cove, but really this Corbett's Cross was very, very good. I don't know, did you see the race? It's not an eye catcher, but it's certainly a horse that I'm going to follow as it moves up in class. Did you see the performance?
Yeah.
For having first run in the handicap was given an opening mark of 130. The pedigree of this horse was by Gamut. Can you tell me a Grade 1 winner by Gamut, Mr. Groome?
Not offhand, I couldn't know.
Road to Riches. Or was it Road to Respect? One of them anyway. One of Noel Mead's.
One of those was Balco, Road to.
Well, whichever one isn't Balco, it's by Gamut. I must research it, but just this horse was very, very. The way it moved, it was first time up to 3 miles. It was a winner of a point to point. Obviously, Eugene O'Sullivan trains it, and Maxine Road. But Paul Byrne has obviously splashed out a few quid for this Corbett's Cross. Won a handicap off 130, very, very smooth. Obviously, the ground was very, very testing. I just love the way this travel jumped and the way it just moved into the race. Won by 6 lengths. I reckon this horse had loads in hand. It was off 11 stone 7 with the top weight in here in this handicap hurdle on as what I said, really testing ground. This horse, it'd be interesting to see what mark it gets or what it goes up. I would imagine close to £10 for the win, definitely 7 in around that region. What does the British handicapper put on top? Maybe they don't go to the festival whatsoever, but maybe they avoid that. I would imagine, based on its form, it's probably going to need real deep ground. But if it did come up soft, what's the British handicapper going to give this horse? Could it be up to running in an Albert Barton? It's priced up at 25 to 1. I don't know. Wherever it goes, I'm just going to follow it. I think it's a real smart horse. That's Corbett's Cross. Absolutely loved what it done at the weekend. And I think it was a graded horse in a handicap anyway. That's one thing I will say. A couple of them just, you mentioned lower level stuff. One to mention Chazamy. It's we're back to the all weather at Dundalk. Chazamy on Friday night, Mr. Groome. You're laughing, but this horse is going to win again. Very smart performance. Paul Flynn from Waterford had the second horse in the race. Probably well handicapped in its own right. But Chazamy, very impressive in what was the concluding race, I think it was, at Dundalk. And Chazamy certainly got into the tracker. And one today, when Gavin Cromwell gets these... he's been struggling for winners of late, hasn't he, Gavin Cromwell's yard? They haven't been absolutely firing in the winners. There was a horse that won today, the King of PRs. And it was just his first run second run in a handicap today at Punchestown. And obviously, what did Darver Star move up in terms of ratings once upon a time? It was certainly rated below 100 at one point. I wouldn't be surprised if this horse ran up a bit of a sequence. And that's for any minute saying that this is the next Darver Star. But I reckon that it went very, very snug today, and there could be more to come from the King of PRs. Love the way it travelled through the races, lined up on the inside the whole way around, jumped and just moved in like much the best horse in the race. And there's going to be more to come from the King of PRs. So 3 into the tracker. Kilcormac won today at Hereford. Harry Cobden on board. Also a very smooth performance. So I'm giving you 3 real smooth winning performances. Nothing coming from in behind this week that's, stayed on like an eye catcher. But that's the 4 I'm going to put into the mix. One on the all-weather course at Dundalk. So that's the tracker horse, Mr. Groome. Next section of the show, we'll be back with what is the big question.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
Some of the trends are thrown out the window with 4 runs required to make the handicaps. With well-handicapped novices having such a good record in recent years, are there any different strategies or angles that you will be exploring, as there are to be so few novice runners? So that's the handicaps. So I suppose Statement comes to mind, doesn't it, Mr. Groome? Those type of horses that are absolutely thrown in and that are still novices. Any different strategies that you're kind of thinking of before we start delving into handicaps on this challenge?
Yeah, I must admit, I haven't given a lot of thought with regards to strategies, but on as of yet, I think we can. You need a few years of data to really start, seeing is there a trend there. But you'd assume there would be, and I do actually. I can see why they brought it in.
Question. It's
a great question. Yeah, it's definitely what you definitely need to consider it this year with the handicaps. And for me, the handicaps at Cheltenham are where it's at for betting opportunities. Willie, especially, we've talked about it on the show before. He's quite late starting his horses back, so it's probably going to be a disadvantage to him. He's not going to have the time to run horses that many times over hurdles to get into these races. So that's possibly a trend when you look at where he's not going to have that ammunition.
I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Groome, that probably is worth highlighting. Speaking of handicaps at the Cheltenham Festival, obviously one man springs to mind, and that's Gordon Elliott. And just looking at the stable form at the moment, would it be a little bit? I know you flagged this up at the start of the year, and he turned things around quite well. But he's currently on 1 winner in the last 36 runners in the last fortnight. Would that be maybe a slight concern? What is going on there with Gordon?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, he's the winner yesterday, in fairness, and possibly thing for concern. Maybe a quiet period now before the Dublin Racing Festival and then into Cheltenham, but not. Yeah, that from being in such good form going into Christmas, that is a significant comeback. Yeah,
so just watch this space. Second question, Mr. Groome. We're going to skip over the second one for a minute, but the second one I want to look at is give us 3 horses for a patent on day 1 of Cheltenham, Mr. Groome. And well, why don't you kick it off, right? Give us a horse on day one at Cheltenham, and we'll put it together, and we'll come up with what it actually pays. But on day one at Cheltenham, and there's a lot of shorties, isn't there? Just actually on that, looking at my portfolio, we will come to portfolios, but a lot of my selections are in the latter half of the week. I'm talking on Thursday and Friday, so there is quite a few short ones, especially in the championship races on the first 2 days. Facile Vega, Constitution Hill, and an Ergamine to note. Give us one for day one for the patent.
I have a feeling you want to put your mare in the mare's hurdle, so I'll leave you that race. I'll suggest Marine Nationale in the Supreme. I think you can back him at 4-1 with BOYLESPORTS. So I think he's under the radar because he hasn't run. Yeah, he's not going to have run in a good while before he gets to Cheltenham. But the form of his Royal Bond is obviously very strong, and still wanting to take on Facile Vega at an odds-on price at this point. So yeah, he would seem the more obvious one.
He's 4-1 at the moment. You're mad on that Royal Bond form. Of course, Ashrow Diamonds was in there as well. I'm going to go Dysart Dynamo, favourite, of course, for the Irish Arkle. He's in the team sheet there, 12-1. But I think after the Dublin Racing Festival, I did say that. Did I, Mr. Groome? The Irish Arkle, he is favourite. Can he make a back-to-back wins over course and distance? But he's 5-1 now. Should he line up and win that? And I would expect him to go very, very close and go very well in that. He's not going to be 5-1. You're probably looking closer to 7-2 second favourite. There's not a talk of appreciated going up in trip, which we've been calling for quite some time. And the last one on day one, we're going to put into the mix. Staying away from handicaps just yet. We might do a day one or maybe a Cheltenham patent in terms of the handicaps very, very soon on a later episode. But 4-1 Love Envoy. I think she's a cracking mare. She's on the upgrade. So let's say, for example, a £5 patent would cost €35 and 1,255 should they all win. So there you go, Mr. Dan's dollars. And I don't know what you think of that, Ronan Groome, but has every chance to go for. We know the targets anyway. So, and all being well, that's where they go.
That's half the battle. Half the battle.
So, Chris Deverdy, you haven't seen commenting around here. Make sure you're subscribed, Chris. And make sure you like the video as well and start putting your portfolio. You're probably a bit late for the portfolio, but do let us know your best bet of the Cheltenham Festival. He's obviously enjoying the Jerry Hannon performances here, and he's asked for a Jerry Hannon impression of Facile Vega on the steel and around the bend for home at 6 and they're Cleggan followed in by Embassy Gardens, and then comes the big Doyen, Facile Vega on the steel. There you go, Chris. Any more, Chris? Get them in down below. Facile.
Do the Imperi Pa one for the maiden hurdle win at Naas.
You want me to do it again?
Do it again. You haven't done it for the
loyal. I didn't watch last week. Jerry Hannon needs to come on this show, but apologies, Jerry. Just we mean well.
All love. It's all love.
Racing in towards the last 500 yards. Imperi Pez shot clear. This is a smart one. Hack the hurdle here. He's absolutely bolted up. Gets better every time, and I'm a bit hot under the collar now after that. It takes a lot of energy. I don't know how he does it, Mr. Groome, but he's a legend. Vega on the steel. Okay. Whittle the Allegory Devassi. We mightn't see her in Ireland before the festival. That's the problem. We mightn't get a Jerry Hannon Allegory Devassi shout this year until later on in the season. But next section of the show, Mr. Groome, is, of course, the portfolio spotlight. We're going to put a portfolio under the hammer, as they say. And we'll be back with the portfolio.
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
Cool Chetty swinging in, hack-a-doots about. Right. I can't stop when I start this crack. One for later on in the show as well. And you might know what that is. Right. The portfolio we're going to take a look at this week, Mr. Groome, is Fintan Finnegan. And I don't know whether he's from Monaghan or he's from Liverpool, but he's both. A name like Finnegan, he's probably from Monaghan, living in Liverpool. I hope he doesn't support Liverpool. Lucia, week 1, 10-1, Mr. Groome, for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Cracking bet.
That's a good bet, yeah. Well ahead there. I haven't heard what the plan is with her. They obviously missed the Tallworth, so what Nicky's going to do with her now? She had a bit of a setback, didn't she, before that? So
and she scored bad. I mean, how bad a setback do you think that is? She scored bad.
Yeah, she missed her intended target, so he wants to run her again, so he needs to find a race for her.
I wouldn't be surprised if she went straight, and it wouldn't bother me either at the same time, you know. And same thing as kind of Marine National, not the same thing because obviously Marine National didn't have a setback, but just to mention, the dream is still alive, and at 10-1, I think she's every chance. She's 5-2 now, so that's a really good bet. Then we come to week 2, Banbridge. On the 14th of the 11th, 12-1 for the Turners. I don't know. What do you think?
I like it.
Okay. 12-1. You think he goes Turners over Arkle?
Yes. Yeah, I think they'll stick to the new course that he won on last year. And I think on better ground, he'd be a different animal.
Okay. He jumps very, very well. He's obviously won at the course. And yeah, maybe did the ground catch him out a little bit? And I suppose it turned up quite soft, didn't it? You had Mighty Potter, then you had the Devil's Coachman, Banbridge, up in the Drinmore. So, like, it's obviously, you know, the better the ground, the better his chances, you'd have to think.
Very much so.
Okay. And stretching him out to that 2 mile, 3 furlongs on the old course, but on the new course, I should say, it's probably going to suit him. Yeah. So, look, it's their jet powered looks dead in the water, I must say. Lossy Mount, 10-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. Cracking value. Ballymore. This is interesting because Gaelic Warrior now has been spoken about for the handicaps. All the Shrewds, Mr. Groome, are putting this horse up for is it the Martin Pipe or the Coral Cup? I don't know. He obviously has a tasty looking mark, and that's probably likely, is it?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's in the Betfair Hurdle as well, isn't he? So
yeah, that's correct.
Like if he won the Betfair Hurdle, he'd blow his mark for Cheltenham likely and go for a novice then. And the Betfair Hurdle's worth a lot of money, and it's in recent years it actually hasn't been filling out. So it wouldn't if Willie actually ran there. Like some people are saying he's just running or he's just entered them to see what his handicap mark's going to be, but it's probably a better opportunity, probably an easier race to win than a handicap at the festival because the race doesn't even bloody fill out anymore, and which makes no sense because it's worth a lot of money, probably more money than the County Hurdle. I'm not sure. I have to check that again, but I think it is worth more money than the County Hurdle.
Well, just looking Flooring Porter then week number 6, 5-1. I wouldn't look at. I was Flooring Porter's biggest fan last season, and I thought he was good value last year. But I think 5-1. He was 7-1 probably this time last year, wasn't he? Before he went into the festival, I certainly wouldn't be backing him at 5-1. El Fabiolo, week 7, 7-1 for the Arkle. I suppose he need to brush up his jump, and I don't think he will beat Dysart Dynamo. Should they line up against one another? And look at. I suppose you have 7-1. So what is he now? 6-1, 5-1. Gentleman's Game, 33-1 for the Brown Advisory. Now this could be a good one.
Yeah, very interesting price. Like them at Christmas. Be a nice horse there.
Do you know what I didn't like though? Why did Mouse put the cheek pieces on him? What was it? It was his first run over fences. Like what was the need? Would you not keep that for maybe 2 seasons down the line when he's maybe needs a bit of a sharpener? Like, is that a small bit of a worry that he's going to headgear on his first run?
I don't really look into that as much. I think trainers have their own reasons for doing things like that, and they know more about that clearly than I would be able to comment on. But I take your point. Yeah, I wouldn't. Really
I just noted it. That's all I'm saying. I just noted that. I just thought it was interesting, as we would say. Next point is a good land. He's obviously 9-2 for the Nathaniel Lacey, Albert Bartlett. He certainly was impressive, and at 20.
He's not. I don't think he goes. He goes for the Ballymore. I was literally just on the phone with Barry Connell there before we came on.
Go straight to the Ballymore.
I don't even think he's entered in the Albert Bartlett.
Okay, news flash. Mr. Groome. Exclusive news always on the Champ.ie podcast and courtesy of the Golden Groom. Right, Ramillies, make sure and get that Irish Field Cheltenham Festival magazine. When's that coming out, Mr. Groome?
That'll be out now just after Dublin Racing Festival. You can order it online on the irishfield.ie.
Still waiting on the call up for my feature. Ramillies, 16-1 for the National Hunt Chase. Now, this could pan out because the way it's looking at the moment is, does Willie really have an obvious contender for what was used to be the RSA, the Brown Advisory? I have to say, I wasn't massively sold on Gallerman Demonil before Leopardstown at Christmas, but he did impress me. And he could be a lot classier than people think. And obviously, Willie said, going an extra, 6 furlongs isn't going to make a difference to this horse, and hinted or suggested before he went off to Barbados that maybe the National Hunt Chase was the route that this horse would go. Sure, Patrick would love that, but is there a bit of a switcheroo here? I mean, for me, is Gallard Demonil the classier of the two?
Well, Patrick had won a ride Gallard Demonil in the National Hunt, I'd say. That I can't get this Ramillies at all. He was a massive horse to follow for me last season, but he even in his bumpers, he used to arrive there travelling and just cut out completely. Now, granted, he has looked a different animal this year, but the fact that I just couldn't see him lasting out a National Hunt Chase after seeing him cut out so many times before, but maybe he's a different horse now.
Absolutely. I'm just laughing at the cheek pieces comment about Mouse Morris. I've taken off the cheek pieces. And I think this has probably been one of the better shows, Mr. Groome. I have enjoyed it. So maybe I'll leave the cheek pieces off for week 11 or week 12. Taking a look at the final horse of it is the team captain Allegory Devassi. Obviously, you've got the value there at 4-1, but she has some rival now in Impervious. And I'm hoping Scarlet and Dove can still pick up the pieces. She's improving and she has an experience edge on both. So, look, it's obviously, I think that all round there's some cracking ones in there. My favourite one personally in that is Lassie Mount at 10-1. And I think Lucia is not far behind it, Mr. Groome. So it's if those mares perform, then he's going to get himself out in profit before he week 10 even finishes.
Yeah, he's got a nice profile for sure, definitely.
So congratulations. We will, well, not congratulations, but keep updating that portfolio. You're going well.
Congratulations, you're calling the winner already.
No, you're going well, as Paddy O'Shea would say. A grain of rice would tip the scale. Right. We're on to, which is the final section of the show, and it is, of course, the selections, Mr. Groome. We're going to run through them because I know you don't like doing it usually, but just for people who've just dropped in, we're going to put them down below. Dysart Dynamo, 12-1 was week 1 for myself. Scarlet and Dove, 10-1 for the Mayor's Chase. Statler, 20-1 for the Gold Cup. Lucia, I'm not quite as juicy as Mr. Vince, or Mr. Finnegan, but she is 6-1 for the Mares. I put her in at that. She's obviously 5-2 now. That's nice. Chemical Energy 9-1 for the National Hunt Chase. Have them price. Lassie Mounts 7-2 for the Triumph. Happy with that. Blue Lord 18-1 could look some price if he turns up in the Ryanair. Parmenion 33-1 for the Supreme. He must have scoped bad at Christmas. Very disappointed. 28-1 for We've All Been Caught for the Bartlett. Love Envy 11-2 for the Mare's Hurdle. And I just love that mare. And of course, as you mentioned, you put it up last season, of course, at bigger prices on show number, on the, of course, the review show. So, Mr. Groome, do you want me to call out yours?
I can call out mine. It's not very happy reading, but we'll go through it quickly. Gentleman to me is now a 66-1 shot for the Champion Chase. He won't be doing anything. Beauport's been very disappointing. I've done him from the Brown Advisory. Echoes and Rain, I still think she's a player. Let's put her at 14-1 for the Mayor's Hurdle. Interested to see where she goes next if she does. Three Stripe Life is dead. Won't be winning anything. Ashrow Diamond, I think I'd give her a huge chance. I think she should be close to favourite for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Her form is way superior to what Lucia has achieved. Arctic Brazil, very disappointing in tall work. Back to the drawing board with him, but surprised to even see him line up in the Supreme at this point. Absolute Tard, Henry de Bromhead was at Punchestown yesterday, confirmed that he would go straight to the Gold Cup along with Manila Indo. And look, you're on a wing and a prayer there, but Henry's more than happy to back himself to get him ready for the day. He'd be probably breaking all sorts of trends, having run in 100 days, and you need to hope that he's he's still the horse he was after the way he ran at Haydock, but there was an excuse for that. And if he ran to the same standard as he did in the Gold Cup last season when he won, he's the one to beat. But that's a big if. Classical Dream I have for the Stairs at 9-1. If he gets there, he's a huge chance. I think he's a huge player, especially coming into the race fresh. I think he needs to be. 3-card Bragg, I got him in before the Lawlers, but he wasn't declared, which is a bit disappointing. So I'm not sure where he goes next. Possibly the Nathaniel Lacey at Leopardstown and the Dublin Racing Festival. I think he's all about 3 miles, so I think he's still alive. And then last week I put in Champ.ie for the Ballymore, and I think at 15-2 that was a brilliant enhanced price by BOYLESPORTS. I think if he lines up there, he would be close to favourite on the day.
Can I say something? I think you've been a little bit hard on yourself in recent. Obviously, the first couple, you had a couple of howlers in the first couple of weeks, but you genuinely do have a couple in there, certainly with live chances, and a couple of solid ones in there. So there's 10 weeks to go, Mr. Groome. It's no walk of shame just yet, and you were in a healthier position than I was going into last season, but pulled a couple of handicaps out of the bag. Correct, Rambler. You might remember that outside the See You Then bar. So it's getting
How
on.
could I forget? Bollocks.
Right. So we're on to this week's selections. It is week 11 selections, Mr. Groome, and we are going to play a little promo and come back.
BOYLESPORTS has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
Mr. Groome, you're going first. I'm giving you the honours once again. I have to steady myself ahead of this pick. You're going to be surprised, I think. But go on.
Well, I didn't want to give it away like I did in the show before, but I like Banbridge for the Turners. Banbridge. As I said, I think back on good ground at Cheltenham, where he won over fences earlier this season in over 2 miles. And he's obviously won the Martin Pipe last season in fine style as well on the new course. I think the soft ground might have just caught him out at Fairyhouse, and way more than willing to scratch that run. If you look back to his form before that, yeah, he jumped really well and won well in that 2 mile race at Cheltenham. But before that, he beat a horse called Indigo Breeze, who went on to finish a close second to the Real Whacker, who's second favourite for the Brown Advisory. So I think that's good form as well. So Banbridge has got the course form, jumps really well, and in an open race, I definitely think he can get closer to Mighty Power, who won well, looks a real stamp of a chaser, looks definitely a better chaser than he was a hurdler, and he was a good novice hurdler. He won twice at Grade 1 level, but did have a kind of negative experience at Cheltenham last season, and that's not ideal for him. So I definitely think Banbridge can get closer to him, and I think. What price are we going with, BOYLESPORTS?
Was 12-1, Mr. Groome. You're getting 16-1. They felt sorry for you.
Yeah, that's they probably saw my profile. 16-1, I think that's a fine price. Yeah, and I would expect him to run here. You're asking me earlier on would he go for the Arkle? I think the Turners is a softer race, and obviously he has a 2.5 mile form as well. So I'd expect him to run here. So I think 16-1. That's a fine enhancement by the good folk at BOYLESPORTS.
Yes, thank you to Alan and the lads for that. So we are going to take a look at my selection, which is, now Mr. Groome, I have to steady myself here, because when we spoke, when we had a phone call before we recorded the jumpers to follow for the season, and he was the one horse that I left out of it, that when we recorded, I was just disappointed I didn't get him in. Now, we've kind of hinted at him a couple of times, and I've been flirting with this race for weeks on weeks upon weeks. And I've decided to just take a punt on it now at this stage. Based on his price, I think it's a fair price. Is it going to contract majorly? I'm not entirely sure. I know you said to me about Love Envoy last week that I bit at the wrong time. And of course, Epitaph then the following day wasn't declared for the Mayor's Hurdle. Obviously, that was a mistake. So maybe we might have the similar look here. I've gone Ashdale Bob, Mr. Groome, for the Stairs Hurdle for Jesse. I can see you nodding your head. He's been hitting the crossbar for quite some time. He's an 8-year-old. He was a June foal. And I would be, what I have down here is, I'm convinced we might see a career best this spring, and I'm hoping it's at Cheltenham. I'm hoping it's over 3 miles, and I'm hoping it's in an open stairs hurdle this season. Those at the top of the market, as mentioned, Home by the Lee, he's carted into the race. Is it 1.6 he went in running, turning in for home here. He travelled all over Home by the Lee on his third start of the season. I think there's been steady improvement from Ashdale Bob from his first to third start. Hatton's Grace, he led. They tried to change the tactics with him over probably a trip plenty short for him. On ground, look, it was testing ground. He's run on testing ground before. Obviously finished third in the Coral Cup, which I thought was a huge effort last season, Ronan, at the festival, over 2.5 miles on really tough ground. Not many got home that day, and certainly not many up the top of, I suppose, who were really prominent. I thought that was his best run of last season. I know he finished second. He finished second to Classical Dream at Punchestown last season, but I thought his best run was in the Coral Cup. Was he top weight, or he was near enough to top weight on that occasion on tough conditions? And those who were up near the top, or who were up at the pace, finished out the back of the television. This horse didn't. He was just pipped. I thought it was a massive run. And stepping up to 3 miles in the spring this season, I'm convinced we're going to get a career best off him. And on ratings, he's 152. Ashdale Bob, he's going to have to improve 10 pounds to win the stairs on official ratings. I think he can. People are probably going to say, did he stay at Leopardstown? I would be just saying that this horse is improving and we're going to see a better horse in the spring. I cannot see how this horse doesn't stay. He's by Shantu out of Bob Backmare, screams stamina, jumps well. I'd actually love to see him held up in the stairs coming off the pace. So I'm going Ashdale Bob and getting them in there into the team sheet. The ones at the top of the market, I'm quite happy to take them on. This horse is an 8-year-old. He's improving, and I think there's more to come from him. So there you go. That's my case, Mr. Groome, 14-1. And can you be having? I've had my comment on yours. Can you be having any of that?
I watched watching him in Leopardstown. I kind of had that half feeling that he didn't stay, or he didn't see out the trip as well as he could, and just got outstayed by Home by the Lee. And I do take your point that the run in the Coral Cup was a huge run, and the front three came clear there. I think wasn't it fast or slow, and was third and Commander Fleet, just on a going day for Commander and Fleet, and he's a useful animal on his day. I can see where you're coming from. I would have slight concerns about the 3 mile trip.
You were always a massive fan of this horse, and I remember on podcast 2 or 3 seasons back, you loved what he done at Navan and Novice Company. He didn't go to plan for him last season. I mean, the first half of the season, they tried him over fences. Then they brought him back to Leopardstown. He finished 7th in the Grade 1 chase at Leopardstown behind Fury Road. Then they go straight to Gorman on the TS Days day to the Galmine. It'd be interesting to see what they do. Would he have the option of going to the Galaboy again? They ran him over 2.5 miles then at Navan. So it was a muddling season he had last season. His best runs always come in the spring, and I think he's had a much better prep this season for something like a stairs hurdle and a double figure price run, and it's a very open year. People are mentioning Paisley Park. If Paisley Park wins the stairs hurdle at the age of 11, I'll give up.
Possibly, yeah. Well, it's that type of race. It's a mad race, isn't it?
So there you go. That's our selections, Mr. Groome. So that has been episode number 11 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. You're off skiing next week, so you're gone again. So we'll have a refreshment in for you again.
Yeah, Mr. Boland, I presume.
It hasn't been confirmed. We might get
always good value.
We could be Davy. We'll have a look and see. So that guest will be not confirmed. It'll be a surprise next Monday. And well, look, have a good time skiing, Mr. Groome. You'll be back for episode, I make it number 13. And we'll see you then. So, yeah, it's shaping up nicely. You might get your first handicap selection in when you get back. And just actually for the listeners, from next week onwards, we're going to be taking one race. So we've obviously 8 shows left from next week onwards. So we're going to be taking 9 shows. We're going to take a race and delve into it in greater detail. One race from the Cheltenham Festival every single week from next week onwards. So that has been episode number 11. We will see you next week.
It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a...
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.